Hey everyone, welcome to Movie Marathons HQ, where we do movie marathons connected to new releases and where we enjoy and review some of our favorite movies. This video is part of the Toy Story 5 movie marathon, where we are watching one movie every week as we prepare for the release of Toy Story 5 in June 2026. Today we are discussing Lightyear. Released in 2022 and directed by Angus MacLane, this is a prequel which explains and shows Buzz Lightyear as a space ranger before we get to know him in the original Toy Story. Overall, I'm mixed about this movie. It starts off very strong and has a really fun premise, and there are some things that happen during the movie that I like, but every time I've watched this movie, I just find myself bored and not engaged and not really interested. And I can't really pinpoint exactly why. We'll go into a few things in the positives and negatives. So overall, I don't enormously dislike this movie, but there's just not a lot to like, and it's kind of just a middling kind of movie. For positives, I'll talk about the animation, which I think is beautiful and detailed and stunning. Some of the supporting characters that have some good moments, and the Buzz Lightyear character arc. And then for negatives, it's just the concept of this movie that doesn't quite square with me. Spoiler alert for Lightyear. So first is the animation. This is a Disney Pixar movie, and they do have a pretty wide difference, I think, in their animation styles. Many of the Pixar movies seem consistent with one another, but there are some that have taken some different routes here. And so here in Lightyear, they sort of take an almost realistic type of animation. Some of the other ones are a bit more cartoonish, but this is pretty realistic, and I think the animation is very, very good here. Everything just feels textured and feels like you could reach out and touch it as you're watching the movie. There's really interesting things that they do with light, and when Buzz is in his spaceship and he's trying to hit light speed, it looks really interesting, and the animation is beautifully done here. So even though I find this movie boring, it is interesting to look at in the moments that are engaging. So that's the first positive. Next are the supporting characters. There is a ragtag team that has to team up with Buzz to teach him the meaning of teamwork. And although I literally don't remember their names, and I've watched this movie a few times, I do think it works. I think the concept of having the team members, and they're kind of Disney Pixar, funny, goofy things, and I think they're fine. He also gets paired up with a robot cat. I am by no means a cat person, but those who like cats probably like that aspect of it. So even though the supporting characters don't stand out enormously, I do think they have an important role, and they're not annoying or terrible. So I guess that makes them a positive. And the last positive is the character arc for Buzz Lightyear. So rather than having Tim Allen come and do the voice character work for Buzz Lightyear, they've chosen to recast him and use Chris Evans. I think Chris Evans does a fine job. His voice sounds like a space ranger. But I do like what happens with the character. He's very much focused on the mission. He loves procedure. He loves following the things that the Space Rangers are trained to do, as we see in the original Toy Story movie. The character is very consistent there. But then as Buzz goes through his adventures, he fails and fails and fails, and it just weighs on him. And I think that's interesting to explore, especially in what could be considered a children's movie. I sometimes think Disney Pixar movies aren't kids' movies. They appeal to kids, but they have universal themes that are not only for children. But I digress. I think there are some great themes here that Buzz explores about loss and not understanding who you are and relying on other people and asking for help. And so then as the movie goes on and he feels like he's failed his mission, but he's the one who must sacrifice to help everybody. But then he realizes through the circumstances of the movie that he does need to ask for help. He does need to rely on others. And sure, they won't do it perfectly, but he didn't do it perfectly either. And so then by the end of it, he accepts that he needs help. He builds friendships and builds teamwork. He understands he's allowed to fail, but then learn from it. And I think it's a really great arc from beginning to end for Buzz. And then for negatives, it's just the concept of this movie. I think prequels inherently have an uphill battle because we know where the story is going to go. So when we have an established IP and then we're given a prequel, sure, it's going to give us some layers, but we know that there's no real danger to Buzz. He's going to make it through. In this case, the concept is this is the movie that inspired the toy that Andy gets for his birthday. And to be honest, I don't love that. This is just a nitpick of mine, but I love the original Toy Story, and I grew up thinking, how cool is it that toy makers just made a cool cowboy and a cool space ranger just to be toys, just for the pure sake of having cool toys. And then Andy gets them and has all these adventures. And I remember thinking as a kid, all of my toys are based on games or shows or movie characters. And I thought, wouldn't it be cool to have an original toy? So that's just the story I made up in my head. So then when this movie says that the Buzz Lightyear toy is based on a movie, and also, spoiler for Toy Story 2, Woody is based on a TV show, that kind of cheapened it for me for some reason. And then just the idea of let's tell this story of Buzz Lightyear and do a prequel, I don't think was very popular with fans. So the concept of this movie just seemed a bit like a cash grab and something to just have another Toy Story-like movie until they could figure out Toy Story 5. I still don't think that's the main crux of why this movie is so dull. I don't think it's just the concept that doesn't work. So I can't really pinpoint. If you have ideas, or if you think this movie is dull like I do, and you have ideas of why, make sure to let me know, because I'm a bit stumped on why I don't like this movie more. But the concept of this movie is negative for sure. Now, how might Lightyear connect to Toy Story 5? I don't think there will be a direct connection at all. Buzz Lightyear is going to be in Toy Story 5, but he will be voiced by Tim Allen, not by Chris Evans. And so since this is the movie version and then the Toy Story 5 is the toy character version in the real world, I don't think there will be a connection. I do think, though, that they will have a callback to this movie. Toy Story 4 came out in 2019, Lightyear came out in 2022, and so now this is the first Toy Story movie since Lightyear came out. Maybe they'll have a new button or like an update to Buzz Lightyear where the button has the voice of Chris Evans now. Or maybe they'll reference a toy from the Hawthorne characters or Buzzurg or something. So I think there'll be a callback in Toy Story 5 to Lightyear, but not a direct connection. So that's my review of Lightyear. What do you think of this movie and how do you think it might connect to Toy Story 5? Make sure to let me know in the comments below. Follow Movie Marathons HQ on Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube, and also on Letterboxd, where you can see all of the movie marathons we've got going on right now. The next movie in this marathon is Toy Story. See you at the movies.